Thank you, Manju ma'am. Thank you for School of Fashion Technology for having me here. Thank you to all the stalwarts of our textile industry and education who are here. Now, this conference, no PowerPoint presentations. It will be purely an interactive session with you guys. We saw what Beena ma'am showed us. I mean, first she talked about what Khadi and handloom is, and then how she has done amazingly well, the kind of stuff she's doing and the process she's adopting. Now, this conference is called Empowering Khadi and Handloom, right? So there is a sense of responsibility in that term, which all of you have, which all of us have, everybody sitting in this room does have. But I won't really talk about only the responsibility. There is something else to it. It's also about empowering yourself using handloom and khadi. It's not only that we have to save it. The fact is that this is our main strength, the core strength. Some of you, or many of you in fact, when you'll travel abroad as designers, you'll see the kind of stuff which people like Lee McQueen, people like Galliano, people like Kenzo, people like Yamamoto, Issey Miyake are doing. And you will understand that we cannot compete with them with what they have. They have state-of-the-art power looms, they have state-of-the-art rapiers, which are doing repeats which are like 50 inches in the width. We don't have that infrastructure. But what we have is all of them are very, very envious of. They would love to have what we have, which is our handlooms, which is our khadi. So it's not only about saving our handlooms. It's also about saving ourselves. Because that's all we have. And that's one word which we use, which I use all the time. That's all we have. Now, as about Indian designers, okay. How many famous, I'm not really asking the names, just the numbers. How many of the famous designers are there? Fashion or textile designers in India. I'm not talking about everybody, but the famous ones. At least 50 or 100, right? Now I need some names. I need names from you guys of Indian designers who are not working with khadi and handloom, but they still have made it big. Tell me the names of Indian designers who are doing phenomenally well without working in khadi and handloom. Manish Arora, Masaba, Gaurav, Abu Jani. Are we talking about designers who are not working in khadi and handloom? Essentially, I should have included handicrafts as well. Basically, yeah, our heritage crafts, including embroideries. Including embroideries. There's not a single one. So that means that gives us a picture that khadi and handloom are doing very well. But then, Beena ma'am spoke about something, and we all have seen. All the khadi and handloom emporiums in India are closing down. They are going through a bad phase. They're losing money and they're closing down. So why is this paradox? Here we have people who are doing phenomenally well working in khadi and handloom, and then here we have all the emporiums, the historical bastions of handloom, the historical only marketing tool which these craftsmen had. They are all closing down. Why is that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So government hand holding, normal people can't do it. They could be a part. Like ma'am said, Anjali ma'am, is the design. It is not about the government. It is not about the techniques. It's not about the marketing. It's about design. Many a times we tend to put our handlooms and khadi on a pedestal. We think about our artisan as the Jesus Christ. He is not. Any artisan is not different from a farmer. We don't have to, there is so much of talk about saving the artisan. We don't have to save the artisan. Because an artisan is as important as a farmer. But we have to save the craft, that art. That is what we have to save. So, Design essentially is the differential factor, because of which you have one side, you have people who are closing down, and one side we have people who are started to do well. Strangely enough, the design input went out in last 20 years, when, trust me, commercially have been good years for Indian textile industry, but all these emporiums started going down because initially you would have heard that there was this handloom and khadi only survived because of patronage. You know, all the karkhanas, whether it was weaving, whether it was embroidery, whether it was any sort of handloom or handwoven or hand embroidered stuff, they survived because of the patronage which the courts of India, the royal courts of India used to give them. Then obviously the kings were no more, so the government essentially became the patron. They set up institutes, they set up these emporiums, the state governments as well as the central governments. But we have seen that it's not really worked the best because there was no design input. Now the problem is that you guys will be starting off. There will be demands of the market. There will be demands of making things which are essentially bag price. You know, we have to sell at a price. Then how to incorporate khadi and handloom in that? Is powerloom bad? Is chemical dye bad? It's not. Powerloom is the reality of today. It is not bad. You don't have to look down on powerloom. Chemical dyes, again, they are not bad. But we are talking about green. Even powerloom can be green, even chemical dyes can be green. I'm sure there would have been presentations yesterday, or they will be happening. You know, it's about, whenever we talk about sustainability, it's a green fashion conference, whenever we talk about sustainability, we talk of it as it's a responsibility which we have for our future generations. You know, so, I mean, many of you obviously question with the kind of things which are happening in the world, why am only I responsible for saving handlooms and for the future generations? You know, with the rate of climate change, with the rate at which things are changing, it's not for the future generations, it's for our own generations. You know, what we thought will happen in terms of the degrees of the environment or whatever we thought will happen over, let's say, 40, 50 years, you're seeing that the Arctic glaciers have achieved that kind of, within 5 years, they have reached that stage which was supposed to happen in 50 years. So if we are talking about today, now again coming back, this tussle between the handloom versus power, the man versus the machine, it is not a tussle. In the times we live in, it is not a tussle, it is a reality. Even if you wanted to, you cannot produce everything on a handloom. You have to have powerloom. Now I come back to where the patronage was. You know, you look at governments, or let's say the HNIs of the world as the patrons, as somebody who has to give money so that you can sustain your craft. I have a different take on it. You yourself can be the patrons. See, many of you will be running businesses, you know, design-based businesses. And in that, if you can adopt green practices in your bulk productions, you know, things which you are supplying, let's say at a certain rate because it has to sell, then there has to be some revenue generation source which can make you also put in your hard-earned money into sustaining handlooms, into saving handlooms and khadi. And a lot of us are doing that. Obviously, Beena ma'am, as she told me, that what she is doing is phenomenal. She's not using any bit of electricity. She's not using any bit of anything which is, you know, all her wefts are, as she said, are hand-spun khadi. But the warps, you know, the warps are mill-dyed, mill-made. That's because the silks, all of you have seen the handlooms, right? Yeah. To pass the hand-spun silk, let's say for that matter, in the warp is very tedious. It can be done, but it reduces your production, it escalates your cost, and also the silk yarns coming from China are actually, if we don't think that everything which comes from China is bad, are actually of a very good quality even to put on a handloom. Mysore also does make some. There are some denier components. I won't get into technicals of bees, bice, and Atara bees. We'll save that for some later day. But the point is that everything machine is not bad and everything handloom is not good. You know, everything handloom is not good. This is the thing which you have to put into your minds. Just because something has been made on a handloom or a handspun does not make it good. If it was good, it wouldn't be facing the times which it's facing right now. So the only responsibility you have is to bring design back to handloom and khadi. If you do that, you'll be successful for yourself and you'll be doing a great, great service to the craft. And as far as you can be, please go for green practices. Green is also mindset. It's not only the process. You also have to be green in your thinking in terms of the wages which you pay to your weavers, in terms of the work atmosphere which you give to your weavers. It's not only about using dyes which don't pollute. It's also about you yourself being green. And that is something, if you achieve, you will be a great designer. And I don't mean only from the marketing perspective, but this is something which is really needed. From the design perspective, a lot of the people are doing very good work, but very few are doing great work. One thing which I have seen recently, because knowledge in your generation has become so easily accessible that we tend to produce a lot of things which are mediocre. Research has gone out of our lives. Wikipedia is our best friend. Google is our best friend. Google Images, in fact, is our design source and inspiration. Anything which we need to do, we Google it, we see the images, we get inspired and we do something. I won't use the word copy and plagiarism here, but that's also very, very frequent. That might just make you a successful business person. It won't make you a good designer. Now, this is the choice. This is the choice which we have to have as to where we want to be. Hi, Ben. Hi, Philip. So this is the choice which we have to choose for ourselves as to whether we want to be successful businessmen or whether we want to be good designers. I'm not for a moment saying that you can either be that or this, but you have to take a route. You have to take a route as to which route do we want to go in. A good craft-based designer entrepreneur with, they're obviously experts at the green bit. We just had two friends walking in who are experts into these things. But the only thing which I'm saying is that if that is the route which you take, maybe in times to come, you'll be doing a great service to even our khadi and handlooms, and you'll be empowering yourselves with use of our khadi and our handlooms. They are our strongest suit. We cannot, trust me, we cannot compete with the power looms of the West. If you would see the kind of stuff which they're able to do, even the machines, not only the stitching machines, we cannot compete it. Sometimes we have to understand as to what we can and what we can't do. If you'll see fabrics, if you'll see shirts made of cotton, which is the single repeat in width-wise, is 46 inches. And in handloom, we talk about the chalk concept. We talk about the number of hooks and the number of chalk, the jacquard hooks. Normally, we don't get anything, in terms of 95% of our productions is something in the width of the repeat is 3.5 inches. When we are talking about weaving, obviously I'm not talking about printing here, but 3.5 inches. How do you compete making a design which is 3.5 inches wide with something which can be 44 inches? Our power looms, again, most of the power looms which we have in India, except for some new power looms which are setting in, the whole of the power loom industry, so to say, whether it's Bombay, whether it's Bhiwandi, whether it's Ichil Karanji, whether it's Banaras, whether it's down south, they are all old age power looms, 2 shuttle boxes, 3 shuttle boxes power looms. They are not state of the art power looms, but our handlooms and khadi are state of the art. No other country in the world even has 10% of what we have. So why do we have to talk about how do we save it? We should talk about how we save ourselves with our strongest strength. That's what we have to do. Whenever we want to go into that field, as you guys are budding designers, you are young, taking too much of responsibility can be a constraint. So I told you that is not the only route. Everybody is free to choose the route. There are obviously textile companies which are doing turnovers of 500 crores, 1,000 crores, and they practice nothing which is green. In fact, at the last to last year's conference, Mr. Rahul Mehta was here, and he made a very pertinent point that it's very strange for somebody from the textile industry to come and talk because they are the biggest criminals. He spoke something to that tune. So which is true, which is true. For so many years, that's what, so not only India, everywhere that's what we did. And as I told you, in terms of green is not only the chemicals or the processes, is the mindset. If you go to Bangladesh, Bangladesh has become so big as a garment exporter. Right now, Bangladesh being such a small country, which is not even, which is smaller than, let's say, 3 times smaller than a state like Uttar Pradesh. Again, 2 to 3 times smaller than our Maharashtra. It is exporting 1.5 times in terms of dollar values as against India. 1.5 times. You walk into factories in Dhaka, and around Dhaka, you have to take a golf cart to go around the factory. I'm not talking about one single factory, most of them. But if you see, if you go into the interiors, and if you see the kind of the work environment, something pinches. Something, they are poor people. They are doing it out of compulsion, not out of choice. People who are weaving for them, people who are stitching for them, even in India, many of the places, the weavers, our workers are doing it out of compulsion. The day we take it to a level where our weavers do it out of choice rather than compulsion, is the day we'll talk about saving ourselves. Because the crafts will be at a pedestal where they can take us forward. So that is one thing which we have to take care of. That is our responsibility. Not saving the artisan, saving the art, saving the craft. And the only way to do that, obviously, is to the artisan. I'm talking about saving their skill. As I told you, as a person, he is no different from the farmer, who plows in the field. But he has an art, he has a skill in his hand, which we need to save, because the way it is going down, trust me, in 20 years, we'll have nothing left to save. And then we can't compete with anybody in the world. Okay, it got a little heavy, I'm sorry, but that is the reality which we see today. When you go to the looms, when you work in the fields, that is what you'll see, that in 20 years, I work with handloom weavers. I don't have a single weaver, till about 3 years back, in fact, I did not have a single weaver who was less than 40 years of age. Not a single handloom weaver, and I'm talking about hundreds of weavers I work with. Not a single weaver who was less than 40 years of age. Now, is it his responsibility that his children stays in the craft? Why should he not send him to a good school, get best of education and go and become a software engineer? He should only do it if we make it worth his while, where the financial rewards at least is taken care of, and this whole craft and handloom business becomes aspirational for him also to follow. And that can only be done if we make the product aspirational. We have to have a product which looks good, which has a design input. So don't, and in these things, Google won't help you. Wikipedia won't help you. Only and only research will help you. How many of you go to resource center or the college library on a daily basis? How many of you do that? Okay, so we have around 0.5% of the audience, or maybe 1 or 2% of the audience. See, we spoke about fast fashion. That's how fast fashion comes in. When your research is fast, when the knowledge comes fast to you, the output also comes very fast. We are talking about, exactly. To do a good, hand block printing, from the inception of the design to final product can take something like 30 days. And here we have state-of-the-art digital print machines. You Google, you just convert it to Photoshop or Corel Draw and you print it. In 30 minutes flat, you have like 100 meters of textiles, right from the designing stage. This is, this is really what you are coming to a design institute to do that? I mean, you should have simply gone to, you can easily go to a Photoshop learning institute. I'm sure there are dime a dozen all around us. You know, just go learn Photoshop and start doing it. You know, those guys who print flexes, you know, those signboards and all, they are doing the same thing as you guys. Yes. Is that whom you aspire to be? Go back to the books. Go back to library. Go back to the weavers. Go back to the craft clusters. There is no education like working on the job. We all, I mean, even I am kind of guilty of that, but our smartphones don't let us do that. Our smartphones don't let us do that. In terms of the quality of time, which when I had started off, which was around 11 years back, I remember I used to spend at least 6 hours every day drawing. I mean, you have a team of artists and artisans, but I used to spend 6 hours drawing. Now I don't. I mean, in fact, I was sitting with somebody 2 days back, and for 4 days we did nothing but sketch and design. And it came to me that for so many years, I think so, I mean, I was barely spending half an hour every day on the actual design. You tend to become a manager. You tend to manage your design. You tend to become, you manage your businesses. See, that phase will come. With each one of you, that phase will come. But the point is, if we can stick to the design, you became successful because of your designs. But a point comes where you leave it and you start managing things. You manage your design, you have people under you, you have your assistants and everything. And many of us are guilty of that. And they tend to design for you and you just pick and select. Everybody goes through that phase. But you can remain a true designer only if you are doing things yourself, just the way you did it starting off. Okay. That's all a lot of gyan to you guys. But if we can make it interactive now, you know, in the sense there are real problems. You know, it's like working with green practices, working in this kind of, and also firstly working in handlooms and crafts, the khadi, and then also doing everything which is green. It's a very, 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 very tough road to go. You know, all around you, you will see people who are taking the easy route. You know, you will be doing something which is a block print, you will take 30 days to do it. And then obviously there will be people who are digitally printing it within 30 minutes. And then you'll be doing 100 times more work than you are. 100 times more work than you are doing. Now it's a choice which you should make today as to which boat do you want to be in. If you go that road, and trust me, there is no harm in taking that road also. I'm not for a moment saying that this is bad and this is good. But if you want to go through that road, decide it now. But if you take this boat, trust me, there'll be a lot of heartburn. There'll be a lot of heartburn. Many a times you'll think that, why the hell am I doing what I'm doing? You know, I'm not making the kind of money which my neighbor has. I'm not selling the, the amount which he is selling. I'm not driving the kind of car which he is driving. There's only one thing which you'll have. You'll have his respect and he won't have yours. You know. So it's all about what you want to be. Okay, so with that, I throw it open to you guys. Any questions to Beena ma'am or to me? Okay, she would like to say something. Okay.
I think Mr. Hemang's presentation has triggered and made me realize that there were 3 things that I forgot to tell. And with permission from Manju ma'am, if I can share that. There were very interesting incidents all along in our life that we come across. But there are few gets turn of message. And there was a very important thing that I wanted to tell you yesterday when Mr. From Fab India, Mr. Rigo. Mr. Rigo was giving a presentation. There were a couple of things that came into my mind. That when we say fair practices in handloom, it includes that you do not reject anything to the artisan. You don't throw it back onto their face because you want best quality. You are training him. First of all, you are putting your creative and your expertise to blend with his skill to make him capable of doing what you want. But after all, he is a human hand. And not one hand, as you saw in my presentation, that a product passes through number of hands. So the flaw or the mistake is going to happen. And all big companies, when you become from small company to a big company, which I have chosen not to become myself, remain at the stage where we are and slowly growing, that you have to absorb what comes out as reject if it's your production. You can't throw it back to the artisan and say, "Ye aapne kharab weave kar diya, there is a flaw here, there is a hole here, the warp and weft didn't synchronize, so there is a gap, there is a banding coming in your fabric." Well, it's your yarn, your concept, your design. You cannot throw it back to artisan or a weaver and say, "You do what you want to do." What will he do? He's such a lost soul, you know. First of all, he doesn't know the design that you're making, where you're going to market. He wouldn't have been able to market what you're making. Any of these, he wouldn't have been able to market. So, but you are a designer, you are a creative person by instinct, by birth, and then trained. You're fortunate enough to come to institute and get the training as a designer. So you can cut and make number of products out of the damaged fabric. You can make cushions, bags, recycle, upcycle, whatever. And you can find a market for that. So at Creative Bee, as a policy, we don't reject anything. We have shelves which says damage, and that goes as a discounted products, and they are such beautiful designs, but with small damage. So honestly, you are saying that there is a damage. So many designers, so many faculties from all over India, when they visit Hyderabad, they come to Creative Bee showroom and just looking for the damaged shelves because they find very beautiful products there, which can be recycled or used. So that's number one thing that I would like to convey, that have that heart in you as a designer, that artisan cannot absorb 5,000 rupees sari, which has a small tiny hole because something went wrong. Number two, I have been working with the government, with the ministry on various advisory role for number of committees for past maybe 15 years. And I feel very hopeless when I attend the meeting, go all the way to Delhi and nothing happens. Sometimes things happen. And when you get a chance to be part to that decision of government, be bold. Like for example, we were given Prime Minister's funds for clusters program, and we have asked for 100 clusters for the whole country. Each cluster will have 1,000 looms. So 100 clusters, we have asked for 300 clusters. Now PMO, the meeting had only 4 people committee. I was a part of that, and the textile secretary was very new. He has come from mines and minerals or whatever that department, doesn't know ABCD of handloom. And PMO said, okay, what is the guarantee that 300 clusters will perform? So we would give only 100 clusters. Then very happily, the textile secretary about to sign the memorandum saying, okay, give 100 clusters for handloom and 200 clusters for power loom. So the protocol is that you finish your turn and then you are not allowed to speak again. I broke the protocol and I asked the PMO and the textile secretary that are we giving uninterrupted power to the villages? How power loom going to function in the villages when there is 8 hours power cut or 6 hours power cut? And you will not give power looms free of cost. You will burden the weaver with a soft loan, but it is a loan. A weaver has to pay back. And to make space for the power loom, he will cut his hand loom, use it up as a firewood, and then with a great assurance from government, he will think that he's going to make something good. So please do not give us power loom clusters. As and when you believe in us, that okay, 100 clusters have performed, you give us more clusters. And you should be bold enough and make a difference. Whether you are kept in the committee or you are thrown out of the committee, it shouldn't matter. That is number 2. Number 3, so many people ask me that I have my studio in a very huge building, like it's about 6,000 SFT. And then, a showroom. And so many times, some arguments come up. I would say that I'm a Gujarati by birth. So some kind of business sense should have been in me. And why would I sell handloom? What am I doing? Why can't I have a multi-branded store like, a division of Shoppers Stop or something, But I'm not doing that. Why? Because Mr. Hemang said that you have to have passion. If you have passion, then only, like Fab India founder had the passion. And I did my internship at Fab India from NID when John was alive, Mr. John Bissell. And I got such an inspiration that I made Creative Bee. And today Fab India is doing extremely well. But there is but. Yeah, but there is a but, and we all know. So he said, the choice is yours. You remain as a slow performer, feed 200 looms, 300 looms, give work to few hundred artisans, or you grow as big as Fab India has grown and adopt also the common path, power loom and hand block, power loom and embellishment, but do whatever your conscience accept as a green fashion or green design. Thank you.
So there she said it. You know, it's a difficult road, and I would not ask any of you to choose it. But whether you still want to take that road? How many of you? That's quite a few. Are we being honest here? I mean, you're sure that you really want to screw up your life taking this route? You sure? I think so. Ma'am, we have to have a round of applause for this.